What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Vegas 97. We have Sean Brady going against Gilbert Burns. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think for an Apex card, this is like one of the better Apex cards in a very long time. And quite frankly, I'm excited for it. I think it's stacked from top to bottom, to be honest, in terms of just a ton of fun fights. We did lose Alessandro Costa on this card, but Cody Durden is stepping in on a couple days' notice, which I think is awesome. He's going to be taking on Matt Schnell. And then we did, unfortunately, lose Ryan Spann versus OSP. So yeah, now down to 12 fights, but still, I'm looking forward to these fights. I think we got some good ones coming up this Saturday. Before we get into the video and break it all down, if you guys could please do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then also leave me a comment. A comment does go a long way, helps support the channel. If you guys want to support me more, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. All content on the website should be out throughout the week. And I do want to give a special shout out to the winner of the UFC 305 Significant Strike Contest, Adesanya Dricus du Plessis, and shout out to Jason Mitchell. He guessed 188. The correct answer was 187, and I was able to give Jason his winnings, a guy that I've spoken with on Instagram multiple times. So yeah, shout out to Jason, and a great guess, really good guess, one away there. So, but yeah, with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, guys, and we're going to start with the first fight on the card, and this bout order is just a mess. I'm assuming it's going to change, but right now we're going to start with Nathan Fletcher going against Zigomatis Ramaska. We got Fletcher, 26 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Ramaska, 27 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 9-2, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. If you guys recognize this fight, it's because we were supposed to watch it not last week. We didn't have a card, but the week before we were supposed to have this fight. And I think Fletcher pulled out, and they're rebooking it onto this fight here. So, yeah, we have a fairly closely lined fight here. You know, obviously both these guys were in the tough house, and I think it should be closely lined. It's a striker versus grappler matchup where Fletcher's going to be looking to get the fight down to the mat. I think his wrestling is pretty decent. He's really good on top, good ground and pound, good submission game. Ramaska, this guy's a freaking madman. This guy's super fun to watch. He's going to go out there. He's going to try to take your head off. He has a ton of power as well, but kind of the knock on him would be like the takedown defense. So in theory, you know, Fletcher could potentially get some takedowns here, get some top control, and maybe win a decision. But I don't know. I feel like Ramaska, if he's able to stuff some takedowns here or get taken down and work his way back up, like on the feet, I think Ramaska can definitely land some big shots here. Fletcher has been knocked out in his only loss that came in the 3rd round. So, and then on top of that, if this does go the distance, like we could see a situation where it's like a damage over control type situation. Ramaska's landing some big shots on the feet, and you know, Fletcher's getting a takedown. So I think there's some reasons to like Ramaska here as an underdog. I think, you know, Fletcher does have a path, but I think Ramaska, you know, low-key has more paths, you know, with the knockout threat and just doing more damage overall in the fight. So I'm going to take Zigomatis Ramaska to win this fight. I'll say he wins it by 3rd round knockout. Moving on to the next fight. It is Andrade Petroski going against Dylan Budka. We got Petroski, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 11-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Dylan Budka, 24 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach, 7-3, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Petroski sitting around minus 270 and Budka sitting at plus 230. So money has actually came in on Budka throughout the week thus far, you know, during fight week. But for me, I do like Petroski here. You know, I think Petroski's, you know, pretty good. He is 33 years old, but I thought he looked, you know, had one of the better performances in his career against Josh Fremd his last fight. With that said, I don't think Josh Fremd showed up. But what I liked about Petroski in that fight is, for the first time ever, it's like he looked like he had really good cardio. Like he didn't look to be slowing down anytime soon, and maybe that was more of a Josh Fremd thing, but I kind of liked what I saw from that aspect. And yeah, I just feel like in this fight, Petroski's going to be better wherever the fight goes. On the feet, although Petroski's not the best striker in the world, I'm very confident he has a striking advantage here. And then once this fight hits the mat, I'm very confident that Petroski's the much better grappler. Like, Petroski's a slick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. This guy has multiple submissions in and outside the UFC. That submission, like the first round against Nick Maximov, was very impressive there. Budka has been submitted before in his career. It was a long time ago, but has been submitted nonetheless. So I just feel like there's a lot of avenues for Petroski to win this fight. Whether it might be could be a knockout. Petroski does pack a lot of power. Could see a knockout, maybe on the feet, maybe via TKO on the mat. Could very well see a submission, and I think that's kind of where I'm leaning. But we could also see a decision as well. Whereas Budka, if he's winning this fight, maybe he's able to to make it greasy, maybe like a cage pushy type fight type thing. I'm not sure he's going to knock out Petroski, and that's kind of why I do like Petroski here, because his chin is like the major issue, but he's going against Dylan Budka, who I don't think is knocking anybody out anytime soon. So I do like Petroski here. I'm going to take him to win this fight by second round submission. Next, we have Gabriel Santos. He is going against Yizha. We got Gabriel Santos, 27 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 10-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Yizha, 27 years old, 5'7", with a 71-inch reach, 25-4, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, good fight here. I personally am very high on Gabriel Santos. And it looks like the odds makers are as well this week. He's minus 260, and Yizha is plus 220, and it's kind of weird because Gabriel Santos is 0-2 in the UFC, but if you go back and look into those matchups a little bit more, especially the Murphy fight, like I was pretty confident that Gabriel Santos won the Murphy fight. Close fight, don't get me wrong, but I definitely scored the fight for him, and that would be, in theory, a very, very good win. Much better win than, beating Yizha would be. And this is a fight where I just think that Gabriel Santos is better pretty much everywhere. I think Gabriel Santos is going to be the better striker here. Yizha, his striking is decent. He'll pressure forward a little bit, but I just think Santos is the better striker. So Yizha has some wrestling, and he actually has a really slick grappling game, but I'm not sure that's going to work against the BJJ black belt in Santos. I think Santos can maybe even be the better wrestler. Like I'm watching some of these Yizha fights, and it's like he is struggling to get some of these dudes down that I don't think are that great. So I think the record on Yizha is a little bit misleading, 25-4, but compared to Santos is only 10-2, but I'm much higher on Gabriel Santos here. So I'm hoping Santos can finally get in the win column. I think he's much better than his 0-2 record in the UFC does indicate. So I'm taking Santos for sure. I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision. Moving on to the next fight, we have a cheater, Andrade Lima, going against Felipe dos Santos. We got Andrade Lima, 25 years old, 5'7", with a 67.5-inch reach, 9-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Felipe dos Santos, 23 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 8-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Andrade Lima, minus 180. Felipe dos Santos, plus 155. Money has came in on Andrade Lima throughout the break week. There was about a pick'em when I did my early look show last Sunday, and then now we got Lima around minus 180 here. First and foremost, we know what it is with Lima. This guy's such a cheater, man. I mean, this is the biggest cheater I've ever seen. I hate cheaters. I'm not a big fan of them, but this guy's in there grabbing the cage. He's, kicking guys in the balls. He's going out there. He's poking guys in the eye. He's missing weight. I mean, Andrade Lima is just such a big, giant cheater. I mean, this guy's probably cheating as we speak. As I'm recording this video right now, I'm sure he's probably cheating on his significant other. He just can't help himself. This guy's one of the biggest cheaters I've ever seen in my entire life. So he's going to be cheating in this matchup, that's for sure. But other than the cheating, I am not as high on Lima as some are. I think he's good. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's very skilled, but his performances just haven't impressed me. I don't think I've been impressed with any Andrade Lima performances. Take a look at his Contender Series fight against Rickson Zenadim. Nothing happened in that fight. Zenadim literally didn't show up that night. It was very easy for Lima. Zenadim kind of just stuck on the outside and got picked apart for 15 minutes. It was a horrible fight. It wasn't exciting at all. Against Igor Severino, that was a very, very close fight up until the bite. And Andrade Lima, like I said, grabbed the cage 7 or 8 times in that fight. And then against Mitch Raposo, which in theory should be a layup, it ended up being a split decision. Do I agree with that? It should have been a split? No, but the fact that it even was a split, that's embarrassing, man. So, I think Lima has the skills. It's just I want to see him put it all together. Whereas Felipe dos Santos, this guy's only 23 years old. He's going to come in here, and I just think he's going to make it a dogfight. I think he's going to have the volume advantage here, and I just see this fight being a back and forth fight that goes to decision, and I think it has split decision written all over it. So I'm going to take the dog here in Felipe dos Santos. I think this one can go either way, but one thing's for damn sure, we're going to see Andrade Lima grab the cage we're going to see him cheat in this one. So I'm going to be looking at the point deduction prop, but outside of that, I'm going to go with Santos for the upset here by decision. Next, we have a fight that, I'm going to say it shouldn't be sanctioned. We got Isaac Dulgarian going against Brandon Marotte. We got Isaac Dulgarian, 28 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 6-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Brandon Marotte, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 8-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Poor Poor Brandon Marotte. We have the biggest favorite in UFC history, Isaac Dulgarian. He's minus 3,000. I don't know. I mean, I think it might close like a minus 3,000. I think when it's all said and done, Isaac Dulgarian will probably be the biggest favorite in UFC history. Brandon Marotte plus 1,300 there. Yeah, there's not much to say here. This breakdown's probably going to last longer than the fight. Isaac Dulgarian's going to get a takedown probably within the first 10 to 15 seconds. And he's going to probably get to a dominant position there shortly after. And he's either going to snatch up a neck or pound out Marotte, I'd say, before the half round mark. So yeah, I mean, they're trying to get Dulgarian back on track, and this is it's a good way to do it. If I was a matchmaker and I was like, hey, I need to get this guy back on track, I'd probably give him Brandon Marotte as well. So yeah, Isaac Dulgarian first round. We'll go knockout, but could be whatever he wants. Next, we have Jacqueline Amorim. She is going against Vanessa Demopoulos. We got Amorim, 29 years old, 5'3", with a 68-inch reach, 8-1 and 4-1. In her last 5 fights, Vanessa Demopoulos, 35 years old, 5'2", with a 59.5-inch reach, 11-5 and 4-1. In her last 5 fights, Amorim minus 300, Vanessa Demopoulos plus 250. One thing I'll say about this one is I would be very careful playing Amorim here because I think she wins this fight. I think she wins this fight. I'm pretty confident she wins this fight. But the problem is, Vanessa Demopoulos, like, the judges love Vanessa Demopoulos. They just love her. Like, she has won multiple fights in the UFC where it's like she didn't win those fights. Like the Marotte fight, and it was unanimous for her. I thought Marotte won that fight pretty clearly, to be honest, and she won it. They gave her the win. They gave Demopoulos the win against Kanaka Marotte, where she was controlled for like 11 minutes. Against Emily Ducote, I was pretty confident that Ducote won the fight. I mean, it was somewhat close, but I thought Ducote won. They give it to Demopoulos. Against Jinyu Fry, I thought Jinyu Fry won the fight, close, but they give it to Demopoulos. So she's going to these very close, and some aren't even close. She's going to decision, and the judges are giving her the win. So it's like, even if Amorim beats Demopoulos, like, what are these crooked, corrupt judges going to think? But I got to go Amorim here. I feel like she has multiple paths. I feel like, she's going to be the better grappler here. The takedowns will come free. This could look a little bit like the Corey McKenna-Demopoulos fight where on the Contender Series where McKenna took her down for 15 minutes. Or maybe Amorim's able to snatch something on the mat. Like, Amorim's going to be the better grappler here. So, yeah, I like Amorim here. I'll say she wins this fight. And I want to pick submission just because I don't want to get these crooked, corrupt judges involved. So I'll take Amorim to win this fight. I'll take her to win this fight by submission in the first round. But these judges could get sketchy. And on top of that, Amorim's cardio could get sketchy as well because we've seen that. But give me Amorim first round sub. Next, we got Rongzhu going against Chris Padilla. We got Rongzhu, 24 years old, 5'9", with a 72.5-inch reach, 25-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Chris Padilla, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 74-inch reach, 14-6 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We got Padilla plus 225, and Rongzhu is a big minus 265 favorite. Rongzhu got cut from the UFC. They put him back on the road to UFC, and he went 3-0, and he was able to get a knockout win, a decision win, and then a submission win. I went back and watched those fights. The submission win was mostly because, well, the fight probably should have been stopped, but it was like more of like a fatigue, beat the crap out of him type submission. But yeah, I mean, Rongzhu, this guy's 24 years old. He's going to be making massive improvements, and honestly, he's pretty skilled. He's going against Chris Padilla here. Padilla made his debut against Hamaz Yantop on very short notice, pulled off a big upset win in that fight. But yeah, this is one I feel like Rongzhu should win. The grappling of Rongzhu does concern me a little bit, but I think he's going to be the much better striker here. I think the takedown defense of Rongzhu is improving. It looked pretty decent on the road to UFC. It was taken down, but was able to pop back up. And if he's able to keep this fight on the feet, I think he should look like a decent-sized favorite here. But Padilla, he can wrestle a little bit. Doesn't have the best control on top, though. I think Rongzhu gets it done. And I'm kind of leaning decision in this one. I'll go Rongzhu to win this fight by decision. And yeah, I'm curious to see kind of what Rongzhu does in the UFC going forward. And by the way, guys, this fight is not at middleweight. This fight is definitely not at middleweight. So my apologies for that. This fight is at, what is it, 140, 145? 155. This fight's at 155. My bad, guys. So, lightweight, 155 for this fight. They are not middleweights. My mistake. It happens. People make mistakes, and I made one just now. All right, moving on. Rongzhu decision. 2. Trevor Peek going against Yanal Ashmouz. We got Trevor Peek, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 9-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Yanal Ashmouz, 29 years old, 5'9", with a 68-inch reach, 7-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Close line fight. Trevor Peek -130. Yanal Ashmouz +110. Yeah, from a betting perspective, I want absolutely nothing to do with this fight. From a fan perspective, sign me up. I'm excited for it. It's a Trevor Peek fight, and Trevor Peek fights they're just madness. They're chaotic. It's something like you'll never see before. It's fun to watch, but in terms of capping a Trevor Peek fight, it's very tough because you kind of don't know what to expect. This is one of those fights where, and we've seen it before, it's one of those fights where I think it's going to be so chaotic that at the end of the fight, because this is probably going to decision, because Trevor Peek fights somehow have been going to decision lately, and Trevor Peek is impossible to finish, and Ashmouz is pretty tough as well. So I think it probably goes to decision. It's one of those fights where it's like, nobody knows who won. The folks at home, they don't know who won. The judges never know who wins, so the judges never know who win. Nobody knows who won the fight. So I feel like both guys are going to have their moments. Both guys are going to land big shots. Trevor Peek, he's very hittable. He's very wild. No striking defense, but he has one hell of a chin on him. The takedown defense isn't great. I think both guys can get takedowns here. So I just think it's one of those back and forth type wars where it's I don't know who just won this fight. So I want nothing to do with it from a betting perspective. But as far as a pick, I'm actually going to take Ashmouz to win here just because I don't know. Peek, I like that he has the dog in him. I like that he has the durability. I like that he has the heart. But I mean, this guy's so hittable. I don't think his wrestling's that great. I think Ashmouz can land some big shots here, have some big moments, mixing some takedowns. But like I said, this fight's gonna go either way in my opinion. So I'm gonna take Ashmouz as the dog here, but I don't think I'm touching this one. Next, we have Cody Durden stepping in on short notice. This fight is going to be taking place at bantamweight since Cody Durden is stepping in on short notice here. And he's taking on Matt Schnell. We got Cody Durden, 33 years old, 5'7", with a 67-inch reach, 16, 6-1, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Matt Schnell, 34 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 16-8 and 1, 3-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So, kind of a weird one here. So Cody Durden, like I said, is stepping in here on short notice. That needs to be mentioned. And kind of the kryptonite with Cody Durden is the submission defense. Cody Durden's been submitted 4 times in the UFC. It was almost 5 against Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley had multiple very close submissions locked in there. And if this fight hits the mat, Matt Schnell is a very, very, very dangerous grappler. So if this fight hits the ground, there could be problems. But kind of the way I'm seeing it, I think the way most people are seeing it is at some point in this fight, Cody Durden's probably going to land something that touches Matt Schnell. Cody Durden in his last fight looked career best. I had a bet on Bruno Silva to win the fight inside the distance, and Cody Durden was piecing him up. He was hurting Bruno Silva. It looked like Cody Durden was on his way to breaking Bruno Silva first, into the early second round. And then he got caught. But yeah, Cody Durden prior to then, he was looking career best. If that Cody Durden shows up, or anywhere near that version of Cody Durden shows up, that fought in the very first 7.5 minutes of his last fight, he probably does make this look easy. So as long as this fight doesn't hit the mat, like Cody Durden, he's a wrestler. I don't think he'd want to really wrestle here because Matt Schnell off his back is no joke. But yeah, I think Cody Durden just needs to touch the chin once, and that's probably that. So give me Durden by knockout. And it should be a fight that finishes inside the distance. It should be a fun fight nonetheless. Next, we have Steve Garcia going against Kyle Nelson. We got Steve Garcia, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 16-5, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Kyle Nelson, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 71-inch reach, 16-5 and 1, and 3-1 in his last 5 fights. Garcia -180, Nelson +155. Yeah, I mean, Steve Garcia's been on a freaking roll. I mean, the guy's starting to gain some hype. How can he not? 4 wins in a row, all coming by knockout, all coming by vicious knockout, I'll add. And he's just, I don't know, he's a dog, man. Like, this is a guy that's going to go out there, he's going to stand and bang, and he's willing to eat one to give one. This is a guy in Steve Garcia, like, you look through his fights, he's been knocking guys down a lot, but he's also been getting knocked down a lot. And that's kind of the one thing that scares me here, is because he has been dropped a lot. He got dropped in the Durden fight. Like, that's not the best look. He got dropped twice in the Mahashate fight, which is not the best look. He got dropped 3 times against Charlie Ontiveros, which, saying that out loud, is just wild to even say out loud. Like, how does that happen? But yeah, he got dropped 3 times by Charlie Ontiveros. So there is a world where Kyle Nelson lands a big shot here and puts Garcia out. And I think there's a world where, Kyle Nelson lands a big shot and drops Steve Garcia. Whenever I'm looking into Steve Garcia fights, I'm always aware that he probably does get dropped at least once, and that could be the case here. But this guy has a dog in him, man. Like, if he gets dropped, he'll get back up, and then he'll drop you. He'll get you out of there. And that's kind of how I see this fight going. I think it's going to be chaotic. Maybe Nelson tries to slow this fight down, but, good luck slowing down a guy like Steve Garcia. Give me Steve Garcia to win this fight, and I think it could be in any round. I think it could come early. I think they could go out there and swing early. But if this fight reaches the second, third round especially, that's where I do absolutely favor Steve Garcia. So I think Steve Garcia wins this fight. I take him to win it by knockout, but I think somebody's getting served in this one. I'll go Garcia round 1 KO. Next, we have the co-main event. Natalia Silva going against Jessica Andrade. We got Silva, 27 years old, 5'4", with a 65-inch reach, 17, 5-1, and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Jessica Andrade, 32 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach, 26 and 12 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Natalia Silva minus 300. Jessica Andrade is plus 250. And yeah, definitely wide odds here on Silva, but there is just a ton of hype on Silva, and she's looked incredible ever since making her debut. Like, I was at that fight, Jazz the Vicious, Natalia Silva, and I'm pretty sure Jasmine was a favorite in that fight. And there wasn't a ton of information on Silva. I think she was coming in like off of a layoff, and we just didn't know what to expect out of Silva. But Silva went out there that night and just beat the brakes off of Jasmine. Just made it look easy every single round. Just the striking looked incredible. Just a very good performance. And since then, she has a couple finishes over Bleda and Leonardo. Really good wins against Ariujo and Lee. But now she's taking on Andrade, which is going to definitely be the toughest test in her career, because Andrade is not an easy fight for anybody. Andrade, it's weird with her, like 32 years old. I thought at one point, at one stretch of her career where she lost 3 in a row, I thought she was kind of done, but since then she's kind of revived her career a little bit and has back-to-back wins against, really good wins against Durden and Marina Rodriguez. So I think Andrade definitely has some left in the tank, so these odds could be definitely a little bit disrespectful, but yeah, Silva's so freaking good. We've seen it time and time again. Like Andrade, she's very aggressive, but sometimes that's to her detriment. Like, she leaves a lot of openings. We've seen her dropped a lot. We've seen her finished a ton as well. So kind of how I see it playing out is I think, Silva's just going to show that she's the much better striker here, and she might even drop Andrade a couple times in this fight as well. So I like Silva here to win this fight. I'll take her to win this fight by decision and in this one here. Next, we got the main event. We got Sean Brady going against Gilbert Burns. We got Sean Brady, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 72.5-inch reach, 16-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Gilbert Burns, 38 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 22-7 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Sean Brady minus 175, Burns plus 150. Yeah, to be honest, I was kind of expecting these odds to move, because I picked Sean Brady in like a main event prediction video. I don't think I've ever gotten so much flack for a pick. Like, people really like Burns, but this money line's not budging. Yeah, this is a fight. I just don't have a ton of confidence in this one, to be honest. If this fight was a couple years ago, I would definitely be all over Burns. It's just we got to remember, this guy's 38 years old. 38 years old. He's talking about retirement in the very near future. He's taken a ton of damage this latter half of his career. Sean Brady's only 31. He's getting better and better. So it's like, Burns, you could see some paths here. The guy's grappling is obviously phenomenal. Very underrated striker as well. But the chin, I think, is a little bit of a question at this point. Is Sean Brady going to be the one to test that? We'll see. Probably not, but we'll see. I could see Brady maybe hurting Burns, dropping him, and then you can also see Brady getting takedowns as well. Burns doesn't have the best takedown defense, and I think a lot of that has to do with him being very comfortable off his back. So we could see Brady winning minutes, via the wrestling as well. So I got to go Sean Brady here. I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision. Maybe he can hurt Burn, but I'll take Sean Brady to win this fight and win it by decision. All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry I had to kind of roll through this. Got another show to do very shortly here. So 25 minutes in, 12 fights, not too bad. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, check out dfsbythenumbers.com, and check out the rest of the content throughout the week for UFC Vegas 97. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.